professor over there. I'm also pursuing my doctorate and my research interested workplace spirituality, organizational citizenship behavior. I'm a certified emotional intelligence coach. And whenever we talk about emotions, whenever we talk about the the understanding of emotion, the one thing that comes into our mind is that how to handle it. In a day, we have a lot of emotion. And if we go by with the scientific parameter, one can say that in 1 second, you think 3,600 times. The thought is like this, that it comes in a second, and the frequency of thoughts is like it's uncountable in a day. Now, when we talk about emotional intelligence, when we talk about are we actually intelligent to handle our emotion? Then people says, yeah, I know how to handle my anger. Whenever I feel angry, I take a glass of water. Whenever I feel sad, I go for a walk. Whenever I feel happy, I spend money and I go for shopping. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's what a human does. That's what a human has to do. But what exactly an understanding of an understanding and intelligence of an emotion is not something that every people aware of. It's not something every people seek to understand. Like people have that awareness that I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling happy. But are you actually intelligent to understand that why this particular emotion you are having or facing or gulping right now? So without wasting any time, I'll start the understanding of, that how emotions get developed. When you talk about the introduction, if I say, I hope I am on my introduction slide and I think it's very much visible. So when you talk about, the essence of emotional intelligence, it's not just the EQ, or it's not just, the understanding of or the intelligence of a knowledge or something like this, but it is something more than that. People says, I have read Mahabharata 3 times. Yeah, that's fine. But are you getting any wisdom out of that? Are you employing those values in yourself? Are you maintaining that calm or peace like what Krishna used to maintain? You have read the book. That's fine. You have read it 100 times. But are you actually employing all those emotions on yourself? That's the first important thing of an intelligent person, to not just know the knowledge. People, when people get knowledge, they usually have that kind of a tendency. Oh, I become intelligent. I'm a very knowledgeable person. I'm a very powerful person. Now I can speak in society. But mostly I've seen myself, and when I'm associated with a lot of people, I always see that thing that sometimes people speak even when it is not required. So they don't know actually, is they really actually have to maintain that one particular intelligence right now, because they are carried away by the emotions. They don't know that this is actually not about IQ. It is more than IQ. This is called EQ. That is called emotional quotient. Now, when you talk about the Shristi, the entire origin, how the emotion developed, you need to understand that emotion not developed within a day. Emotion get developed every single time. Emotion get developed every single moment. Emotion get developed on every single moment when you think about the past, when you think about the present, when you think about the future. There is 3 parameter which comes under the Shristi of the emotion. First is the particular activity that happens, then the interpretation, and then the response. Now you miss the flight. The interpretation come out of it, you will feel sad. The second emotion would be angry. Throughout the day, you will be frustrated. You will carry that emotion throughout the month, maybe for another 6 months, maybe for till that time when you will not take another flight. Now, when you have this kind of an emotion, usually people just express themselves. They don't realize that you have to identify that why this emotion is coming. You have missed the flight because you were busy in some other work. You were interested in, or having prioritizing some other work at that time more. That's the first reason. You got stuck in a traffic. That's another reason. You started late. That's a third reason. Do you actually try to identify that why this particular emotion I am feeling right now? Somebody has insulted me. The only thing I can have right now is humiliation. No. Maybe he is providing me a feedback. Maybe he's providing me a feedback, but the other person don't know how to give a constructive feedback. So he's tried to, or using that one particular platform, which is usually people take insulting the other people. But if you are emotionally intelligent, maybe you will get that one particular wisdom from that insult even. So that Shristi of emotion is, first, you need to identify that why this particular incident has happened. And then you have to take an interpretation out of that incident, that this is the particular thing, this is the particular interpretation I'm having from this incident. And then you make a response. People usually don't have that iota of understanding that there is something called response, there is something called react. And out of 100, 90% people react, they don't respond. But usually what we want, what an individual seek, response. When you see the entire combination of emotion, you will find three major things. First is the identification, second is the interpretation, and the third one is the response. When you mix these things together, they make an emotion. Your son has, like, for example, a mother is really panic that how his son going to perform in the exam, and he performed really well. She really got happy. She went to temple, and when she was coming out of that temple, she met one of her friend, and she informed that her son got more than what your son has received or what your son has secured. Now she was happy, but the moment she was coming out of the temple and she heard that the another person who is on the same in the same class, the another person got more marks as compared to his son. Now the emotions are totally out. How you need to interpret this situation, that is very important. And usually in India we says that अपने मार्क्स कम आए तो ज्यादा बुरा नहीं लगता, लेकिन दूसरे के मार्क्स ज्यादा आ जाए तो ज्यादा बुरा लगता है. Because we don't have that understanding of or awareness of our emotions, that why we have to do parchintan, we have to do swachintan. That's what, in the different shastras of Hindu mythology that has been written, that it's very important to do swachintan rather than parchintan. But usually people think, and they have been formed like this, even if we talk about in the terms of sociology, we mostly think about this society, and that's why mostly our emotions are, a combination of how people think about me rather than what I should think about myself. When you talk about the intelligence of emotion, these are the four pillars. First is self-awareness, second is self-regulation, third is social awareness, and the fourth one is relationship management. Self-awareness. Are we actually aware about our strength? Or somebody should tell me that what my strength is? Are we actually aware about our weakness? Do we really follow the practice through the values which has been inculcated in our personality? Are we actually working for the goals? If we see, there is a theory of a motivation where Abraham Maslow talks about the different stages, where he states that the last stage is self-actualization stage. Usually people find their self-actualization stage very late in their life. They says, I got my purpose. when we talk about the young leaders, which is coming through B schools, these B schools leader, are they actually aware about the strength, or are they just becoming the clown in the society? So first foremost thing, what an individual should seek, what an individual should keep, and what individual should be aware of, the strength, that what exactly my strength is. People says, my strength is that I'm honest. No, that's not strength, that's a value. But are you maintaining this honesty even when you are the last person who is getting the appraisal, and you're not getting the same appraisal what your colleagues or your peers have received? Will you maintain your honesty in giving the productivity? At that time, your strength comes, that you have a will to maintain, to keep that value of honesty. Yes, your will is so strong. Are you aware about your weakness? How do you react when you comes into a pressure? Usually people at a workplace, they don't have that understanding that how to react when pressure comes or when there is a deadline comes. I believe that creativity get destroys when there is a, you know, uh, deadline, because people work for deadline, or people work on that particular, the psyche is there that, okay, I'll work. If I'll able to complete that task, okay, I'll do that. Maybe I'll start doing the work 2 days before the deadline. But if there is no deadline, and if you have that value in yourself that, no, I have to do the work, at that time your strength comes, that irrespective of whatever the situation is, I'll able to complete the task. Why? Because it is very important to be honest to yourself. And then I can work on my goals. When I started working, at that time I'm not able to understand that how to handle my weakness, and there is nothing called emotional intelligence thing at that time I have heard or read. I only get to know about it when I read the first book of Daniel Goleman, or currently I would say that I'm reading a book that is on master your emotion. I would suggest everyone to read this book called Master Your Emotion. It's a very good book. They would help you, because usually people say a strength, if you are a reader, your strength would be decided how focused you are, how consistent you are. But people usually, I read 2 books, I didn't find it very, very interesting. You're not able to maintain that persistence level. That persistence level is your strength. And when you maintain that persistence level, you will able to regulate your emotion. You able to handle your emotions. Usually people are not aware about that thing, that what exactly they have to do when they comes into a pressure, and they react. They started shouting. They're not able to handle that emotion, that is called that. Are you actually going with the thoughts which is coming into your mind, or are you just going with that one particular deadline which has been assigned by someone? So when you talk about just just a second. Out When you talk about the thoughts, when you talk about the behavior, it is very important that you have to understand this thing, that a thought has a direct relation with the emotion. If your thought is coming like this, that yes, I'm feeling good, you will able to see even the happiness in the most problematic thing. But even the problem is not, it's like a small dot, but you're not able to relate the thought with that problem, and then you end up having that frustration throughout the time. So it is very important to recognize your thought, and then take an interpretation from your thought, and then respond, not react. First thing is, you need to respond. then only you can get an understanding of your emotions. Then only you will able to have an understanding or an awareness of your emotions. When you have a lot of thoughts in your mind. Oh, the maid is not here. I will be stuck in traffic. I have to complete this task. And being a professor, oh, I have to write a research paper. Being a research scholar, oh, I have to submit my thesis. There are a lot of thoughts which is coming. To calm down. Emotions are like clothes. One day you're wearing a white cloth, second day you're wearing a black cloth, another day a red cloth. Emotions are like this only. One day you're happy, second day you're sad. But who asked you to be throughout the time be sad? Who asked you, even I'm saying, who asked you to always be very happy? The one thing that everyone has to maintain that rationality, which usually people don't have that, or people don't want to maintain that, because it's very important that you maintain that balance of thoughts. I have to complete the task. I have to complete the task. Don't do the procrastination. It's not required. Know yourself. It's very important to identify your growth. It is very important to identify your strength and work on your strength. It's very important to see your strength, how you are helping yourself to grow, how you are evolving yourself, how you are improving yourself. It's very important to know yourself. If you are able to maintain that understanding that, okay, fine. Last time I have reacted, I have responded like this. This time I'll not do. This time I'll maintain that positivity. That's an emotion. That's an emotion. Every human have that emotion. It's fine if I'll get failed this time. It's perfectly okay with me. Next time I will be true to myself. And then only you can maintain that value of honesty, which has been given by your parents, given by your family. That's what an organization is expecting from you, to maintain the honesty. So it's very important that first pillar of emotional intelligence is have an awareness of yourself, have an awareness of your thoughts and behavior. And it is very important to have an understanding of your thoughts and have you know, it, it makes you believe that the thoughts what you are having, it's like a wave. Sometimes it's down, sometimes it's up, but the up should come down and the down will go up. Just like a season, not every time you will see the trees are green. Not every time you see the color of leaves are yellow. It's like a phase is bad, it's fine, a good will come. The second pillar is called self-regulation. It's steering your ship. Are you actually regulating yourself? I want to share a very good story of Mahabharata here. Krishna called Arjuna and Duryodhana. Krishna says, who comes first, I'll give things to that person. Arjuna came. Arjuna sat on Krishna's feet, and Duryodhana sits on nearby Krishna's head. So Krishna said, the one who comes first will ask first. And Duryodhana says, I want the whole army. And Arjuna was a little scared. He asked for the Narayani Sena. And what Arjuna got? Narayan. And at that time, it was a regulation of Arjuna who able to make him understand that it's not about the people or the army which help you to fight the war. It's about your mental strength. It's about the wisdom. It's about retaining those wisdom throughout the war. Every single day we are getting up, we are going, we are struggling. Corporate people, right? What they do? They go 9 to 5 job. But in that 9 to 5, where they spend the 8 hours, what the young leader has to maintain? The young leader has to maintain that impulsive behavior, which has not been given by that by that young leader, but has been given by the different expectation, the expectation of organization, the expectation of family, the expectation of peers, the expectation of the different clients. So there are a lot of people who are associated. Now, at that time, when the expectation is coming, who asks you that you will fulfill all the expectation? Why are you fighting for that thought that no, I will fulfill all the expectation? The first and the last is to maintain the mental peace. It's very important to maintain the mental peace. That's what handling your emotion. Who asks you to get into a depression? You yourself not have an understanding of your emotion, and you can't regulate it. You're getting into depression. Who asks you? Like, you may differ on this point when I'm saying that who asks you to be into that stage that you have to complete the work on the deadline. I'm not saying that you don't have to. You have to. But in that entire episode, who asks you to react in that manner where you are feeling bad, where you are feeling pressurized, where you actually will you think that you'll become a perfectionist? It is not possible. The young leader, the new generation, what we call Gen Zs, the Gen Zs always believes in instant gratification. They were like, okay, I have given this thing. Now I'm return of investment. Now immediately I'll get a return of investment. I'm doing MBA. What is the placement? After placement, after placement, you will get an understanding of this thing that yeah, I think there is an issue with the my mic. I hope I'm audible. Priya ma'am, is I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it is very important. It is very important for you as an individual to understand that who asks you to be perfectionist. You don't have to. You have to complete the task. That's the first and the foremost thing, that you have to complete the task. Are you able to complete in that? Like, people don't get that understanding that it's not always about the expectations. It's not always about the expectation. You are completing the task. You have to give your best effort. The other person may like it, the other person may don't like it. You have to give your best effort. That is more important. That is the primary thing, that you have to maintain your emotions. Either you are doing it in the right way, you have to see that you are maintaining that ethical integrity, that ethical standard. If you're going with the wrong way, the wrong way will not come up with the right result. It will end up with the wrong result only. So it's very important that you handle your emotions very gracefully. Don't be hard on yourself. Be nice to yourself. And it's important for an individual to adjust with the situations, to adjust with all the changes. It's very important. It's very important to maintain the integrity with yourself. And then only you can maintain that integrity with the other people. It's very important that you uphold all the standards, to uphold all the values what you have. When you are not regulating it, you will not be able to maintain the emotion. And then you end up fighting with your peers, with your family, showing hesitation, showing frustration, and not able to give things with the right productivity. So ambiguity should be avoided, and ambiguity should be avoided first with yourself. And then only you can regulate the other people emotion. So whenever you are having this kind of an emotion where you feel like that you can't control anything, stop. Stop for a while. Stop for a while. Think about it and write a problem. I personally feel that whenever I get into that situation where I feel myself that I'm stuck, I write my problem. And when the moment I write my problem, the half of the problem is that I got the solution. And now I just have to execute little two things in my mind. I have to regulate myself again, that it is very important to again start back with this same, or maybe with that high energy, and then again handle my emotion more gracefully. And then I ask God, never think like that, that just try me, and I will do it. So it's very important to uphold all those values which has been given to you. Your parents, your family matters the most for everybody, either in whatever the age you are. Your family matters the most. So it's very important for you to understand this thing, that upholding those values which has been given to you, upholding those values which has been given by your gurus, which has been given by your mentors, which has been given by your teachers. It's very important for you to maintain that integrity. That integrity can help you to maintain those emotions, and will help you to maintain all those rough phases which is coming into your life. The third pillar is social awareness. Usually people don't have these awareness. Usually people don't have that kind of an awareness. Are we actually empathetic towards people? Are we actually thinking about other people? Are we actually have that understanding that, yes, I have to walk into other people's shoes? Usually people don't have that understanding. Because first important thing that I've discussed as the two pillar is self-awareness. If you're not aware about your own emotions, how can you be an understanding of other people's emotion? And usually people don't have that empathy. And I really feel that the kind of a value systems which we are having right now, and the kind of a, AI is taking or consuming humans like anything, are we actually going to have that kind of an, maintain that kind of a grace of empathy? That's a question to be asked. When we see that a new young manager has fired people who were working for the organization from last 25, 30 years, and immediately the new young Gen Z or Gen Alpha has taken over the chair or the new CEO of the company, and they says we no longer require those old value people. At that time, we were thinking about that. Do we really have empathy? Do we really have that understanding of empathy where we are understanding other people's perspectives? That's why we have, differentiated the generation from X, millennials, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, baby boomers, because we say that their values are very different. The only value what an individual should maintain, what an individual should have, and what an individual should keep is the honesty and transparency. Are you being transparent to yourself? If you are transparent, you're able to maintain that transparency with other people. So it's first important thing what an individual, as in the context of a social awareness, should keep is empathy. This empathy is very, very important. Organization don't think like that. Google has fired people. Within a mail, they have fired people. They drop an email and they says that you're no longer required for the organization. At least an organization is answerable to tell that why they are not required. Why after COVID, a lot of, a mass firing is happening. I don't want to quote many companies' name here, but it is very much there in the newspapers where you are understanding, and where you are having an understanding that how the power plays an important role, and this dynamics is creating that kind of an parameter where people are firing people like anything. They are not having an understanding that why this particular this phase has come up. A COVID has given that understanding that life is important, but after this transition phase, it has given a very different approach that you're no longer required for the organization. Are we actually being empathetic now? The understanding of organization perspective, where the policymakers are least thinking about the empathy, but as an individual, are you actually maintaining that empathy? Are you maintaining that empathy, the empathy what is required at the workplace? If you are expecting empathy, are you giving empathy? And you can only get empathy when you have given empathy to someone. So it's very important to understand other people's feelings and perspectives. And for that, you have to be a good listener. Don't be a passive listener, be an active listener. Don't be a selective listener, be a prospective listener. Don't give feedback as a criticism, give feedback as a constructive feedback. Understand other people's perspective. First, most important thing for a person who is pursuing their uh, MBA, they're going to join their organization within few months. I myself see, I'm working with this institute from last 1.5 year, and I have realized this thing: when we are shaping the leaders, we have to make the leaders understand that empathy is very important. You have to maintain the empathy at the workplace. And if you don't have empathy, you will not be able to give service to any of the either you're working or you're having a relationship or you are a marketeer who has to provide a product. But if you don't have empathy, you cannot think about other people's perspective. Then there is no point of understanding of emotions, because social awareness starts with the term empathy. Organizational awareness, it's like an important thing. In your appointment letter, in your appraisal, it has been mentioned, in your appointment letter, it has been mentioned, this is your job description. That's what you have to do. There is a power related to it. If you'll not do it, you will be punished. If you'll not do it, you'll not get salary. You'll not do it, you'll not get promoted. So you are having the dynamics of power. And also on the other side, there is a group shape behavior that you have to maintain. Now, when you talk about the group shape behavior, at that time, emotions plays an important role. People usually don't have that iota of understanding that how, I'm a person who is from OB. So we talk about this organizational behavior. There's a term in OB called grapevine communication, where people are, giving a more importance to the gossips. Are you actually being mindful when you're talking about other person? That's the first foremost thing that everybody should remember. That are you being mindful when you're speaking about someone? Somebody says, "Oh, I'm giving you a personal experience here." One of the person met with an accident, and people start saying that he is just taking sympathy of his accident. Are you being mindful with your words, what you are saying? And then you are preaching the same language in front of the management or in front of the organization, powerful people, that he is just trying to be taking the advantage that he met or she met with an accident. Are you being actually aware about this thing, that how you are creating a impact in the organization culture? Are you actually doing things for your culture? Are you actually being mindful with the words what you are using? Are you developing a good, cohesive culture? So it is very important to read the room, to see that are you actually being aware about your social behavior? Some people are, social animals. Some people says that, he is my friend, she is my friend. I talk to everybody. Oh, I just want to, be in a good books. That's why. But are you being truthful with any of the person whom you are associated with? And if you are not being truthful, are you being truthful to yourself, that you are just being friend to everyone because you want to get knowledge from everyone, and then you're applying that knowledge for your own benefit? Because it's very important for a young leader to understand this thing, that here in the organization, if you are seeing the people where they are not utilizing, or they are misusing that power in that manner. So it's very important for an individual to take up a call, because in a culture, it's very important to maintain one thing which is called transparency. So organizational awareness will help you to understand about the power and a group relationship. And the third one is service orientation. That service orientation will make you understand this particular thing, that how you are actually helping the another individual. Are you actually working for the organization, or you are working for the need of the people who are there in the organization? So it's very important that you understand not only your needs, you understand other people needs also. And when you talk about other people needs, it means understanding their problems. Usually people, I myself have seen, when I was discussing this thing with one of my friend, I said, yeah, I have to publish the research paper and there are a lot of writings that I have to done. But now things, in the research community, things are not like this. So what exactly, I have to do? And she said, yeah, I have a problem in my back and, I have to visit a doctor. I'm having a lot of issues, this and that. And I was like, I was talking about my research and she's talking about her other things, because usually people don't listen what you're saying. So it's very important to be an active listener. And then she suddenly realized, she said, oh, you're talking about PhD. Let me just, talk about all those things, which is right now, like when you're discussing about your problem, you must be expecting the other person to be onto the same path. The first important thing. So when you talk about social awareness, be an active listener, understand other people's body language, and then talk on the things which is required. Because if you will not understand what kind of a problems they are going through, you'll not able to give an idea or an advice to that individual. So it's very important to have that understanding, that be an active listener, be an understanding of that, what exactly the problem of the other people, what exactly the need of the other people. Now, when we talk about the last pillar of or emotional intelligence is relationship management, connecting with the impact, how you are motivating and guiding others. Usually people motivate people because they want them to achieve some kind of a target. For example, I'll quote one example here. We lost Ratan Tata. Will not get that kind of an individual. Maybe the upcoming time, if any new generation young leader can show the same kind of an empathetic, self-regulated, self-aware behavior. But currently, I'm not seeing any, I personally believe I'm not seeing any kind of a young leader like Ratan Tata, where he was not motivating people on the basis of the work they are doing for the company, but motivating people because they believe that you are an asset of the organization. So it's very important for an organizational perspective to understand the psyche, that an employee should feel a psychological safe place that they need to create. For an employee, even he can works with less salary, but if he or she is not feeling safe at the workplace, there is no point. So you have to guide and motivate that individual, inspire that individual in that manner that he should feel that he is an important part of the organization. And this is where the organization is lacking. This is where the organization is, having that back step when they are talking about, are we actually keeping the human, or are we actually keeping the designation? The organization has to ask this question to yourself. Because at that time we realize that it's not about the man, it's not about a woman, it's about the role what that woman or a man was playing in the organization. So it's very important that you have to motivate people, not motivate position. You have to inspire people, not inspire people by showing that rosy pictures to them that, you know, if you'll do this work, you'll get promoted. And after promotion, you'll get a new car, you'll get a new house, you'll get appraisal in your salary. Because mostly, and I'm giving you in writing, even if at a very initial stage, people work for money, but later on in their life, this is what Maslow says, people work for their self-esteem. People work for their self-actualization. And that's why the Goldman book, where he talks about mastering your emotion, where he mentioned that thing that an organizational perspective or even in an individual perspective, it's not about a materialistic thing. It's about a realistic thing which you have to keep. So when you are motivating someone, you need to keep one thing in your mind, that how you are motivating, what words you are using, how you are displaying that adrenaline motivating rush, and you want to transfer that emotion to the other person. What beautiful, graceful, dignified words you are using. And then only it create a impact on other people. Influence. I've never met Ratan Tata, but I have a huge respect for that person. Why? Because when you see that how pure he was and how exactly he is putting efforts to make the society more beautiful. And why we need these kind of leaders? Because they are basically those people who actually give an understanding that it's very important to be a human first. So connecting with the other people and how you're connecting, that comes through the thought process, what you have. And it is very important to have a good thought process. It's very important. If you don't have a good thought process, you will not be able to interpret anything in a positive manner, and you will not able to respond the way it is required. So it's very important not only think about an individual growth, also to think about a teamwork. Usually people don't think like that. What a marketeer thing. And a very basic example I'm giving you. What a marketeer thing about target. And he's not thinking about what a other person is going through. They say, you have not met the client. You go and met the client. And the person is saying, my mother is admitted in hospital. And then you go back to the third pillar of emotion. A marketeer, a team leader will think like that. Only if he wants to. Only if he wants to be empathetic, he can think in that manner. So it's very important to foster that kind of an environment. People says we have to foster a good culture. And how can you develop a good culture? You can only develop a good culture when you have a good thought process. And how can you have a good thought process? When you have a good interpretation of the incident or activity. When you don't have a good interpretation of any incidents which is going on, or you have not have an idea or even an iota of understanding that how you have to react. So at that time, you'll not able to maintain and develop that kind of a fostering work culture which is required. So it's very, very, very important for you as an individual to understand that yes, a good teamwork is required. And how would you maintain a good teamwork? How would you maintain a good culture? When you avoid the conflicts. Usually when it comes to the family, we sit, we talk, we resolve the issue. Does organization follow this policy? Yeah, sometimes they do. But even if they, on the other side, if they're not following that kind of a, policy, what is the most important thing an organization should think right as an, for the policy makers, or how exactly they have to think that are they actually able to dissolve that disputes which is going on among the employees? So it's very important to sit together and to be transparent with each other. In Japan, usually I've seen this. I was reading a case study from a Yale University professor where he has mentioned that an organization in Japan, they usually take their employees out for a lunch on weekends and they talk about the family, about the goals, about the aspirations, and then they see that even if there is a change which is required in the organization, is they able to handle that change? Because usually when change happens in the organization, people leave organization. So it's very important for an individual or an policy makers to understand, to make people believe that everything could be sorted out. We can maintain and handle the conflict in a more mindful and a more, more a more appropriate way should be there. And then only we can develop a good relationship with each other. We can have a strong, positive connection with each other. Moving on the next slide, which talks about that what exactly the fruits we get if we have a good emotional intelligence, if we have a good quotient of emotions. The first thing is that we can improve the relationship. We can reduce the stress. We can enhance a good, we can have a good culture at the workplace where we can talk about how to improve focus, where we can talk about how to collaborate with each other more gracefully, more productively we can handle each other, how mindfully we can handle the stress or the problem. So it's very important that if you have a good emotional intelligence, what matters and what will you get is the fruit. And then you can flourish that fruit in your environment. So it's very important to feel good. Not every time you have to show anger, you have to show agitation, you have to show frustration. It is very, very important to maintain that balance. And how can you do that when you have a self-awareness and self-regulation? A self-awareness can only comes when you do an introspection. And then only you can think about having a good relationship at both the front, personal and professional. Now, cultivating the journey of emotional intelligence, how can you do that? You can think about a one foremost important thing, which is, which is very, very important nowadays, which is now every organization think about, that you think about here and now. You be more mindful. You be more mindful with your things. Introspection is very much required. Ask yourself why I'm here. What am I doing? Is that's what I meant? That's what I have to, and that's the kind of a work which I'm doing. Is I'm giving the right productivity? I am being passionate. Usually we go out to our office. It's a 9 to 5 job. I get a good salary. This, but are you giving any productivity to the organization, or is the organization is adding some values in your personality? So be very reflectful attitude and have that reflection at both the front, either it's a professional or it's a personal. Be very mindful and always seek a feedback, a constructive feedback. That's what we always required. And constructive feedback can only comes, and it looks constructive when people know your problems. And also on the other side, an individual, in a workplace, people, if you have a leader who is very soft hearted and who always ready to give you, that kind of a very, very approachable kind of a person is there, the individual should not take an advantage of that thing. So you have to be understand other people perspective also. Empathetic is not always into that thing that understanding other people's problem. It's also into that thing that you are understanding other people's perception. If he or she is being nice, you should not take advantage of that. And if he or she is being rude, you need to understand one thing, that like you don't know what is his journey or what is the struggles that he is facing. All you can maintain the rationality of yourself within yourself. So introspection is the first, foremost and important thing. And then with the good constructive feedback, having an empathetic attitude, and then manage your stress. good coping techniques are there. There is a very good techniques that is called AEIOU. If you just hum these letters like these humming techniques would help you to handle your stress. Write your things. Keep on writing about your problems, that why are you facing this problem? What is the need of the hour? Are you actually creating the fuss out of this problem? Or you are just making this problem looks like a big mountain? So it's very important that do that, write that thing and write it in a more, with all the facts, with all the things which is associated with the problem. And the moment you write it, that time you will feel that no, you were just thinking of this problem, that no, it's a very big problem, but it's not like that. So it's very important to manage your stress very effectively. Even if the stress usually we don't get from ourselves, stress has been given by other people. Oh, I got a stress. I was in traffic. You were going out and then you suddenly saw that the whole road is blocked. Oh, I'm completing, I have done my PPT, I have completed my task, but the boss has given me another work. Stress has always comes from other people. It's an external factor. It's not an internal factor. People says, no, it's an internal factor. No, it's not an internal factor. You are sitting for CAT examination. You are scared that what percentile you will get. How come it's an internal factor? It's an external factor. You want to give a CAT exam conducted by another admission team cell or another company itself. Why you are getting stressed? Because you want to give this exam. The only thing that you need to keep into your mind at this time is that when you are giving an exam, you have to give your best effort. You are checking up the last percentile, the last year percentile, and you saw that, IIM Ahmedabad has taken 100 percentile candidate. You can't control it. All you can do is give your best efforts. Why to think about what other person has got? Why to think about what IIMA has taken? Maybe you will get another college which is not into a tier 1. Maybe you got tier 2, and in your tier 2 you have done so much of hard work with maintaining your thoughts and emotions so gracefully that you end up having the best of the best package, but an IIMA students are not getting. So at that time, will you able to think in that manner, that why IIMA students are not getting the same salary what I am getting? So stress is something very external. You don't have to give importance to it. If it is coming, just ask, go. I will handle myself. I am that kind of a person who has an awareness that how to handle the stress more gracefully. So it's very important that you should start your journey now. Take up a small baby steps. Embrace your IQ. Think about your well-being. Think about your mental strength, because world need those people who have an understanding of their emotions. World don't needs those people who don't have an understanding of emotion. We remember Adolf Hitler. We remember Nelson Mandela. But do you adore the ideology what Hitler was having? Or do you adore the ideology what Nelson Mandela was having? Obviously, you know the answer. So it's very important that world needs those individuals who are more emotionally intelligent, who has a good understanding of emotions. That's it, and that's all from my side. I'm very much open for the question. The chat room is open, and I would love to take all the question if you have, so that we can get an understanding that where exactly we are standing right now, and what more journey, how can we make our journey more beautiful. Over to you, Miss Priya ma'am, and I would love to take questions.
Participants, if you have any questions, can you please post it in the chat box?
Ma'am has also shared one, of him. Ma'am, do you think hospital admins too can manage
Who
their
can manage their emotions well?
emotions well? Yeah. Before becoming a hospital admin, they are an individual. You got a tag because you have joined the organization, you have studied the hospitality management. But before that, you are an individual. So hospital admin is just a tag that has been given by the organization. But if you see, the best of the emotions has been managed and handled by the people who are working in the hospitals, especially if you see doctors, nurses, and the admin staff of hospitals. They have to take care of the entire patient list, and in a day you meet more than 100 of peoples, and more than 100 of peoples are just they're sitting on your head and they're asking that when will I get my number, how will I will the doctor will be available, I'll get the bed, I'll do this, I want this. And at that time, it is very important for an admin staff. It's like a role that has been given to you. And you will find that a role in your life, a different role that you have to play. This is just a role at your professional front. And at that professional front, it is very important to maintain your emotions. Usually, on the other side, the customer is not having that rationality, because you see now that incident has happened. Somebody has met with an accident, and he's coming and he's just having that, that panicness in himself or herself, and he's asking you to provide the doctor's detail as soon as possible, and you are struck with some other bill details. At that time, what will you do? The first thing that you do is to help a human. You can settle down your bill details later on, maybe after 5 minutes, but your boss wants you to do it immediately. At that time, the question will come, will you maintain the honesty or you'll maintain the role that has been given to you? Absolutely, the choice is yours. So it's very important that you need to understand this thing very gracefully. I'm again repeating this word because a grace is something which we can give to ourselves. It's very, very important for an individual to understand that it's a role that has been given to me. But my actual role is to evolve myself as a human, and I can only do that when I have an understanding of my emotions. If I don't have an understanding of my emotions, I'll not be able to do justice with any of the role, either it is my professional front or as my personal front. And hospital admins, what? Hospital admins, it's absolutely true. And everyone is, maintaining their emotion. The toughest thing is we deal with people in pain and distress. Usually we do that. We do that, especially when it comes to the hospital people. They have to manage a lot of people, because at that time you will not just meeting a customer, you are meeting a human who's having a lot of emotion, a lot of emotion. So it is very important for an individual to be more emotionally intelligent. It's very, very important. And on the other side, you can't control other people's behavior. All you can control is your behavior. So it's very important to control your behavior. Because I'll give you an example. Maybe you are, I'm not aware at where you are working, but I'm just giving an example. You are doing some work on your system, and suddenly a boy came, a young boy, 20, 24 years old, and he said that I met with an accident. And he said, immediately, I want to meet this doctor. And you said, you just keep calm down. I'll manage the things for you. And you're calling the doctor. Doctor is not picking up the call. The guy start banging his head on the wall. Will you able to control that emotion? All you can do is to calm him down, to call the other people, to make him understand that it's you. Maybe you'll start feeling guilty, or maybe you'll start feeling angry, or maybe you'll start insulting or saying things to that guy. But at that time, you need to understand one thing which is very important: to be empathetic from his point of view. To be empathetic. Maybe he met with an accident and he is in immense pain. He's not able to understand that thing, that this pain that has been given to him, maybe he was doing a rash driving and he's having that immense pain. He don't know how to handle the pain. At that time, it is very important for the admin staff, because usually when people come into the hospital, the first person they met is the admin staff only. and then the doctor and the other people who are associated in it. So it's very important. You can't control other people behavior. All you can do is control your behavior. So I hope I'm a little clear, but it is very important when you're talking about emotions and when you're talking about, handling the emotion more intelligently. It's just that we are talking about that how we can evolve ourselves, how, and it is important to evolve ourselves. Not every time we can have that understanding that pressure comes, so I'll react like this. It's just that I have to understand this thing, that if the pressure comes, I will handle the pressure. I'm more open with the questions, and I'll be happy to help you. I do lead a hospital as a CEO, teaching hospital admin students only. So I would request Professor Soumya Ranjan Mishra, sir or ma'am, uh, it is very important that, to teach your hospital admin students that what they have to maintain is transparency, honesty, and a powerful perspective, irrespective of whatever the situation comes. So that's what I teach to my student, that be transparent, be honest, don't lose that value, because that's what we have to keep. And that's what which is going, which is, the eradication has already come. So it's very, very important for an individual to understand, to maintain that value. If the value is there, you will able to have a good thought process and which produce a good emotions. So that's it from my side. Any more question I would love to take? Thank you so much, thank you so much. And I would love to take more sessions. I will be happy to take more sessions on emotional intelligence, and something we can talk about workplace spirituality. Best remedy is to follow a situational approach. Not not every time is yeah, situational approach is not like you don't have a control on the situation. So in every time, it's when you are having that kind of an understanding that you can't control the situation, but also on the other side, you don't get away from the situation. Stand there, think, and in that manner, you'll able to understand that how strong you have to be. Because if you see, like, mental strength is very important. That's what we talk about. I would suggest another book by Devdutt Patnaik. That's a very good book called The Leadership Sutra, where he says that, people works for their mental image. And when you meet people of your young, like who is more young than you, or the people who are more senior than you, at that time you will understand this thing, that what kind of a mental image they are having, right? That image actually make them understand, or the kind of an understanding they have developed at this particular time will make you also understand that people actually don't have an understanding of their own emotions. Maybe you will find the senior one is immature and the young one is more mature. So that's why we say is that age is just a number. It's just a mental image. And if you have a good mental image, you will able to handle every single situation. That's what in Mahabharata we have seen, that how Krishna has handled his, best of the mental image. And even if you see in Ramayana, where Ram was not aware that on the very next day he has to go to Vanvas, where he has to meet a lot of obligation, a lot of problems would be there. But all that he has maintained is the rationality. So it's very important for an individual to understand, to maintain the rationality. And why rationality should be maintained? Because it's required. It's the need of the hour. Thank you. And I would love to take any more question. Otherwise, I'll end my session, and I would be more than happy to take any more session in the upcoming time related to workplace spirituality or EI intelligence. And I'm very much available on LinkedIn, so you can connect me over there. And I'm very, very thankful to All India Management Schools for giving me a chance to speak on something which is very close to my heart. This is emotional intelligence, and I personally feel that, when you talk about emotional intelligence, when you talk about EQ, this is the first and the foremost thing. And then we talk about intelligent quotient, intellect quotient, or spirituality quotient. So first foremost thing is the EQ that you need to maintain, the emotional quotient that you need to maintain. And you have an understanding of that, how emotions plays an important role in developing you as a good human. So, with this note, now I'll end my session, and I'm very, very thankful. And it was lovely to interact with all of you. And I hope you'll able to maintain the emotions, you'll able to maintain that quotient which is required at every single time. So, thank you so much. And it was really, really, a very uh, I'm very, very thankful that I got a chance to do a session on emotional intelligence. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Priya
Thank
ma'am?
you so much, ma'am.
Yeah,
Wonderful session. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
thank you. Thank